to Life, Death, and Beyond. We welcome Dr. Scott Robinson today. Dr. Scott Robinson is a doctor of divinity, doctor of theocentric counseling, doctor of chiropathy, retired medical examiner, chiropractic physician, and spiritual counselor who teaches people how to heal themselves both traditionally and spiritually. After being pronounced dead following a car accident and waking up in a morgue hours later, and then experiencing a second near-death event during surgery, his life path unfolded and shifted towards studying hundreds of healing modalities and sharing what he learned. He's the author of There Are No Lines in Heaven and teaches a healing method called Einstellen, which he offers freely to help others reconnect with their divine source and their own healing ability. You can find Dr. Scott Robinson at therearenolinеsinheaven.com, YouTube, and other social media. See the description for information about our guest, Dr. Scott Robinson, and Laura Mulcavige, the host of Life, Death, and Beyond, and the services that they both offer. Welcome, Dr. Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today.
It's nice to be here, Laura, and you're a fellow Floridian, so who also came from the tri-state area, so that's nice.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful here in Florida. It's getting nice. Before we get into our topics today, can you share a little bit about your background for the audience?
Sure. I grew up in New Jersey. My dad worked in the Bronx in New York, not too far from Yankee Stadium. I was a Jewish kid who went to Catholic school, Patterson Catholic in New Jersey, Patterson, New Jersey, and I was the first Jewish kid there at that school. And the reason was the neighborhood in Patterson was getting pretty bad, and I didn't want to go to Eastside High School or Kennedy. And my mom and dad gave me an option. Go to Hebrew school, which was the Orthodox Jewish school, which I did not want to go to. And I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was not an early riser when I was a kid. Or I said, well, how about if I go to the Catholic school? And my mom said, what? Yeah. So we made a deal, and we actually agreed with the Catholic school they would take me if I had to sit through their classes on catechism and all the things that they would do for Catholic school, that if I was out for a holiday, a Jewish holiday, I would have to come in and teach the Catholic kids what was it about that holiday, what did it mean, and what did it represent. So it actually made me much more familiar with who I was as a Jewish kid going to Catholic school. That I actually got pretty good with it. So the deal was I had to go to Catholic school during the day, and on the night times twice a week, and on Saturday night, no, I'm sorry, Sunday night, I would have to go to Jewish school. So I was learning Latin, Hebrew, English, and Spanish in my neighborhood growing up as a kid, which to be multilingual is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
That was my being brought up, my being raised. But my gifts, even before my near-death experiences, began when I was a kid. When I guess I was about 8 or 9 years old, I began to realize that I could draw someone, and within 3 days of drawing the person's face, they would suddenly die. The second, yeah, it's like, whoa. My
Wow.
parents actually said, and my grandmother said, this kid's weird. I don't know, I'm worried about him. But the second gift was to become more popular. I had the gift of numbers and would be able to see final scores in football games, not baseball games, not soccer games, not hockey games. I was able to see the scores football season and tell who was going to win by what score. Made me very popular because the other one didn't make me very popular. However, the kids never gave me anything, not even a thank you. And suddenly I began to realize being popular wasn't the best thing in the world. And since they weren't even saying thank you or giving me anything for it, I wasn't going to do it anymore. I stopped. At age 13, I began to tell my parents when somebody else was going to die if the phone rang suddenly. Now, on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur or on Shabbat, Jewish kids And we just didn't answer the phone. That was the thing. You did not answer the phone. But one day I remember, and this was Rosh Hashanah when I was about 15 years old. I was Yom Kippur, actually, the Day of Atonement. The phone rang and I said, Mom, Dad, pick up the phone. You're going to need to talk to somebody. Somebody just died. They went, What? Pick up the phone. Somebody just died. So they picked up the phone. Sure enough, my dad's boss's father suddenly passed away on Yom Kippur. That's when I began to know I had gifts even before my near-death experiences. So that was me growing up. And later on, we would find out that we weren't completely Jewish. My mom thought we were always Ashkenazic Jews, that's European Jews. Turns out we were also part Sephardic Jews, North African, Italian, and Persian.
Mm.
And second, we found out we had Moroccan, Palestinian, Greek, Roman, Chinese, and African American in the family. So the other thing that we grew up with was there's no prejudice. We grew up in an area that wasn't white. There are a few people that were there were Jewish, but we were an African American Hispanic community in Paterson, New Jersey, and the neighbors all got along really well. So straight or gay didn't matter. All those things didn't matter. I went to school with a lot of people, and it was a fairly nice neighborhood where we lived, but all around us, not so good. So the first choice I got to get to go away to school, I took it and I left. I didn't want to go back there anymore. So this brings me up to the time of high school graduation and my first near-death experience. My
Oh.
dad used to work in the car industry. He sold Volkswagens, Porsche, Audi, Mercedes, Benz. But he had a used car salesman, and they would, people would trade in their cars to get a Volkswagen or something. And so my dad bought me a $400 used car, 1968 Mercury Montego, two doors, 325 under the hood, moved pretty good, and had decent gas mileage in the day when gasoline was still 25 cents a gallon. It had bench seats, if you remember those things.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, today everybody's got bucket seats, but they had bench seats in that car. And it was perfect for a teenager dating and then getting ready to go to the academy. See, I was scheduled to go to the academy. I was actually nominated by my congressman, Congressman Rowe, and I was going to go to the academy and be a pilot like my dad. Because dad was a military pilot, World War II, and retired around Korea that time period because his airplane had crashed. So I was going to follow in my father's footsteps. My mom made the airplane engines for my dad's plane. She worked for Wright Patterson in
Oh.
what is now Elmwood Park, but it used to be called East Patterson. And that plant became a paper mill later on. But during World War II, they built engines for bombers, B-29s and B-25s. My dad would be a B-29 pilot. So, long story short, dad buys me a car, and I want to take my friend Lou DeRosa, because I'd never been fishing, up to Lake Opatcon, where his family had a house. And the house was a cabin on the lake so I could learn how to fish. Well, we never made it. I picked him up at 5 a.m. in the morning, 3 days after high school graduation, got in the car, got back onto the highway, and the last thing I remember was downtown Patterson, next exit, and I suddenly felt really strange. I looked down at my hands. I could see right through them and said, if this is death, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Oh.
For the next 23 miles, because I would drive the car for 23 miles and have no recollection, according to the police report. Um, the car got in an accident. I was in the driver's seat. My friend Lou was in the passenger's compartment with our seatbelts on. He fell asleep. And just as the car got hit and spun, I came out of my safety belt, hit the dashboard at the window and the side door where there was a grabber, hit me in the head. And the next thing I know, for a brief second, I woke up, the door opened, a policeman was there. I fell out. My head hit the boot of the police officer, And he said, he's DOA. In the meantime, I came out of my body, floated above, went up towards the sky, and the next thing I know, I was met above the earth by an angel, my guardian angel, who said, turn around, look at the earth, and tell me what you see. And I saw these little strands of light coming up from the earth to an invisible cloud that was above the earth. It seemed I never saw that before, not till I
Mm.
was on the other side. He said, do you know what those are? And I said, no. He said, those are prayers. The small, thin ones are individual prayers. The big, thick ones are group prayers, people praying for the same thing or same person. All right. So I said, that's nice. And he said, come on, we got to go now. And next thing I know, it was as though I was transformed in the back seat of my car doing 100 miles an hour, and everything was just a blur. I arrive at the gates of heaven where I meet my grandfather. Now, I'd never known him when he was alive. He had died 2 years before I was born, but I'd seen pictures of my grandfather. And he said, you don't belong here. You haven't fulfilled your purpose and missions in life. But before you go back, I have someone for you to meet. And he brought me into a room where he introduced me to three beings and he disappeared. He just vanished. And at that time, there was a being standing in front of me, but facing away from me with wavy hair. He was about my height. Then there was in front of him was a big being that I recognized as Michael the Archangel. And how I knew that, I can't tell you. I just knew that was Michael the Archangel. To Michael's right, my left was another angel who wasn't quite as large. And as Jesus turned around, where the being that I would figure out was Jesus, he would turn around. I go, are you the being that everybody calls Jesus? He said, I'm called by many names, but because of your heritage, I will call you the little Prince of Peace, and you can call me Big Brother. Well, it would turn out later, my mom and dad would find out that Jesus was a relative. Many,
Oh,
many relationships way back, cousins wise, because we were related to Aaron and Moses of the Bible. My mother's side of the family found out that we were Kohanim, or the priestly class of ancient Israel's. And the ancient Hebrew, children of the dust, were my ancestors, Aaron and Moses. So, long story short, I cross over, meet this being. He calls me the little Prince of Peace and tells me I can't stay there. It's not my time. I haven't fulfilled my purpose and missions in life. When the unnamed being behind and to my left chimes in and says, when you meet me in the future, you will figure out who I am. In the meantime, you will learn a simple technique to heal yourself and share that with other people. Said, okay. And then Jesus chimed in again and said, you have to go back now. And I went, shoot. And just as I took my right fist and hit my left palm, I woke up in the morgue. In the meantime, the same guy that pronounced me dead, DOA, dead on arrival, was a police officer who had called my mom 2 hours before and said, your son's been in a bad accident. Please come identify his body. Well, he didn't say I was dead. He just said, come identify his body. Well, you don't say that unless somebody's dead. But the
yeah.
police apparently, that was their way of saying it in a nice way so nobody went into shock. So my mom and dad would drive to St. Joseph's Hospital in Patterson, New Jersey, where it was the same hospital I was born in. And my dad said, should we go into the emergency room? And my mom said, he's not in the emergency room. Let's go around to the back where the morgue is. They would go around to the back door, get out, walk into the morgue door, look for somebody. The hallway was dark and nobody was at the front desk. They saw somebody way at the end wearing scrubs. Now I'm wearing fancy smancy scrubs for kids because Saturday's my kids' day. And they went to go ask, where's my son's body? So they walked down this corridor, and as they got close, the man vanished. And they went, what? What happened? Where'd he go? They didn't know. So they had no one to talk to. They saw a body on a table as it was being pushed into the refrigeration unit, and they figured, let's see if this is him. They pulled the sheet back, and it was me. And I sat up because remember, I went, shoot. And just at
Mm.
that moment, I'm pulled back into my body, and I sit up and say, Mom, Dad, I met God, I met Grandpa. They said, son, you had a bad head injury. Come with us. was at which point I was glad the light was out because I had the worst headache. So I said, Mom, I don't feel so good. Dad, I got the worst headache. So they both grabbed me in a different elbow, helped me pop off this table, and walked me down this corridor out the back doors of the morgue and into the back seat of my dad's car, a Volkswagen, a Jetta. And I couldn't sit up straight because my head was hurting and I was dizzy, spinning, and nauseated. So I
So,
laid down till they could drive me home. And the next day they took me to Montefiore Hospital, where they had a neurology department, 2 blocks away from my dad's job there in Jerome Avenue in the Bronx. And the doctor did an EKG and EEG and said, your DMT levels, your dimethyltryptamine levels, which come from your pineal gland, are off the charts. And according to the National Institutes of Health, this means you've had a true near-death experience. He gave me a book, and it was Life After Life by Raymond Moody. He had just written it. I mean, and the doctor had just read it. And along with my mom, she recommended I read it too. Find out, is this what happened to me? I read it and I said, yeah. Spent the next semester. I moved from where I was in Southampton College, Long Island, to Montclair State in New Jersey. And I would spend the next 3 years at Montclair State, where I was living on campus because I wasn't supposed to drive, according to Dr. Barry Ludwig. If I could prove that I was not having problems with my brain or my body, I could be fine. I could keep my license, but I couldn't drive. I said, okay. And I would follow up with Dr. Barry Ludwig every year just to make sure. And when I graduated college and went on to Chicago, he wanted to know how I was doing. And eventually I would move to California and see him because he moved from the Bronx to Santa Monica Hospital in California. All right. I've had this near death experience. I really don't know what's happened. I'm told all sorts of things will occur to me in the future. And I sort of forgot it over time. I would go on and become a doctor. I went to school in Chicago, became a chiropractor. I would go to school in Israel and to come back and become a medical examiner. And I would even be on the front lines in the combat zone in 1983 when the Israelis, the Lebanese, and the Syrians were all shooting at each other. And I'd be taking injured soldiers across the border. It was the year when the U.S. military barracks, the Marines, were blown up in Lebanon. And they lost 298 Marines from a car bombing. It was
mm,
actually a truck. Anyway, I'd be there to take injured and wounded soldiers across the border and back into Tel Aviv. I would come back to the United States, finish up my internship, and then move to California, where my parents also moved up to the San Jose, Oakland area. I actually would end up living in San Jose where I got a job. My parents would live up in the Oakland, uh, El Sobrante area for about 13 years. I would practice in San Jose, then go down to Whittier, California, where I became a medical examiner for the state of California Division of Workers' Compensation. Now, because I could never become a pilot like I wanted to when I was 17 years old, I went on and became a private pilot and was flying my Beech Sierra C-24R retractable landing gear. Got my pilot's license, and I was flying for the state of California Division of Workers' Compensation. On one of my practice runs with my flight instructor, Lisa, we were practicing on a cold, wet day in December so I could do a solo flight in that airplane all the way up in Sacramento, track someone down, take that results to the courthouse the next day, and then fly back home. That was my job.
right.
So on that day in the winter, I think it was December the 12th, and I would get off the runway, which was at about 8,000 feet up in the San Bernardino Mountains. And I started to feel really strange, really funny, really similar to the same thing that had occurred 18 years before when I was 17 years old. So this is 18 years later. I'm now 35, 36. And I'd slumped over the controls and the yoke, the steering wheel for an airplane, And thank goodness I had my flight instructor with me. She pushed the plane down to 8,000 feet where I regained consciousness and we flew home. We went back to Long Beach where I got out, got in my car, was still feeling woozy. A police officer stopped me and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, officer, I've got to get to the medical examiner's office. Something's wrong." So he said, "Follow me." And I drove there. Because he was a highway patrol officer, he said, "I can't get into the city. I'm going to go back onto the highway. You just go down the block there where the medical examiner's office is."
Mm.
And I did. Got in, had my medical exam, which I was due anyway, found out I was severely anemic, and he forwarded me to USC Medical Center downtown. The medical center, USC Medical Center, is the one that they film the front or opening credits for General Hospital. That's
Ah,
right. So if you ever see the big gates in General Hospital,
yeah.
that's the front door of USC Medical Center. And I would
Oh,
go to the nephrology department where they put me under anesthesia and found out I had something happening to my kidney and I was bleeding internally, and I would have my second near-death experience. Came out of my body and floated above my body in what is called a veridical near-death experience. Veridical is Verical, veridical. I believe that's how it's spelled. Veridical, near death experience. It means you come out of your body, you don't go all the way home. But I floated above my, and it might be with a D instead of a T. So Veridi. Yeah, whatever. You'll look it up, you can spell it.
yeah.
All right. So I came out of my body and there was an angel floating there with me. I could see what was going on between the doctor and the nurse, and I could see they were having an affair. They wore the exact same shoes, and they were talking about things they should have never been commenting about because they thought I was unconscious. They gave me the same medicine that they gave to Michael Jackson, which killed him.
Oh gosh.
So as I'm floating above my body and I'm talking to this angel that's floating with me, I said, "My body's a mess. Can I go home now?" And they said, "No, you can't. You have to fulfill your purpose and missions in life." And I said, "Would you please remind me?" Actually, I said the words, "Would you please kindly remind me what's my mission and purpose in life?" And they said, "You will learn a simple technique to heal yourself and share that with other people." I said, "Okay." And then I got drawn back into my body. I would tell the doctor and nurse they were having an affair. The doctor would be transferred to another department. The nurse would quit the relationship and quit the hospital and move away. And then the doctors, after the procedure, who came to talk to me, said, "You better be prepared. We don't think you have long to live. You got probably about 9 months. Go home and make sure all your ducks are in a row. Your insurance is covered. You're going to have to take our medicine, but we don't think you have a long time to go." And I did not accept their diagnosis. I didn't accept their prognosis. I told them basically, if I'm going to live or die, I'm going to do it on my own accord. And I had heard about similar cases to mine with the diagnosis they had given to me. And I said, "If I take your medicine, that will kill me. But I'm going to go to Mexico and I'm going to work with the Gerson Institute and Hulda Clark's Cure for All Diseases. And I'll see you in 3 months." And they laughed. I came back in 3 months. They did a re-exam. And lo and behold, they couldn't find anything wrong with me.
Well,
They said, "We must have made a mistake." I said, "You realize you're talking to a former medical examiner? I go to court for a living?" One doctor died, the other doctor shut up, my file disappeared, and the third doctor insisted that I couldn't heal from that diagnosis without their medicine. So they must have made a mistake.
mm,
I wanted to punch the doctor, but he was the tallest doctor I had ever met, 7'2". He was the center for the Tulane basketball, but he became a medical doctor. And all I could reach was his belly button. I got angry, walked out the door, and I began to learn Einstein. Doing Einstein, I was doing it because I had to forgive him and his staff who believed only their medicine could make a cure, and there was no way I could have had a help and a healing of any other reason other than they must have made a mistake.
mm,
I didn't look back, and I started learning the alternative, complementary, integrative, and spiritual medicine that they taught me at the Gerson Institute in Hulda Clark, and that the angels promised that I would learn this technique called Einstellen, Einstellen, which means tuning into the source and asking for help and healing. I still do it to this day. 27 years later, I'm teaching Einstein.
Beautiful.
I'm kind of squishing everything together in a nutshell.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
long story short, I came back for this particular purpose. I would learn other techniques as well, and I would put them together in teaching people what they needed to do when they've been written off by the medical community. So that's what I did. I would teach them the power of prayer. I would teach them Einstein. I would teach them something called pushing faint matter or negative dark energy out of the body so they could heal. I would teach about the 5 emotions that need to be cleared so anybody could heal: fear, doubt, overwhelm, lack of forgiveness, and frustration. You clear those 5 things, and you're going to clear up a lot of physical issues dealing with a person's body.
Mm.
Especially, as the angel has said, the number one thing that allows evil to get into a body is fear. 99% of humans are in a constant state of fear. And then the other thing, forgiveness. They said that you guys have so many wars on this planet because you don't know how to forgive. And even if you can forgive another person, guess who's the hardest person for most humans to forgive? Take a guess.
Yourself.
Exactly. You must forgive yourself.
Hmm.
This is extremely important. So I teach things like this, eliminating other emotions that don't serve a person. And a lot of emotions are the major reason people get sick. Now, the other thing is people don't understand who they are and why they're here. They're number one, they're a child of God, and they're here on this planet to master this reality, endure, persevere, and overcome anything evil throws at you. We live on a dichotomous world between good and evil. Not only they're evil entities of other dimensions, times, and spaces, but there's also evil that's on this planet from other worlds. 59 races of beings that come to visit this world because we're the best show in town. They call this the spiritual zoo because we
Hmm.
have more species of humanoids on this world than anywhere in the universe. But we're also in the toughest neighborhood, the worst neighborhood. We are the greatest learning experience between good and evil anywhere. And other
Hmm.
beings from other worlds live much longer lives, 450 to 600 to 900 years. They live much longer lives because they don't have wars. There's no dichotomy between good and evil, and they've learned to master their reality. 4 of those alien races are here to help humanity. 4 of the other alien races are here to harm humanity, control it, manipulate it, and basically suck our souls dry. You've heard of vampires who suck your blood? Well, they're vampires, but they're not sucking our blood. They live off fear, anger, rage, and resentment because that's what they live off of, especially the reptilian races, which run this planet through all the leaders of this world, whether they admit it or not. Every country, every leader, who especially the bad guys, are ruled by those folks. Matter of fact, I can't tell if those are them or an illusion that looks like a human, but it's actually an alien. Our dichotomy between good and evil is something God gave the leaders and rulers of this planet eons ago. And we, as children of God, who were worthy to begin with, came to this planet for an experience unlike anywhere else to master this reality, endure, persevere, and overcome it. Our job is not to commit suicide. Our job is not to harm ourselves. The job is to realize that we are children of God and we are here to master this. No matter what happens, our job is to realize as a child of God, we're a spiritual being having a physical experience no matter what is going on. This third dimension reality, evil rules. Our objective, master this reality, bring heaven to earth and earth to heaven, and bring us to the fifth dimension, which is the closest thing where we will live much longer lives because we won't kill each other through war or
Yeah.
destruction. And we will be able to function and enter the galactic universe with the other beings of the world. In this case, the universe. So we
Yeah.
have lots to understand of who we are and what we are. And once you realize that, then death stops being an issue. We're not to be participants in the game of life like people in a parade, nor are we to yell at each other as Democrats and Republicans, I'm right, you're right, I'm right, and fight over stupid things and create a civil war. We're to step one step back, not get involved, just observe, just as you would if you were in heaven watching Earth go by. We are just to master this reality by observing it, not judging it, not getting involved to that degree, but realizing that we're having a physical experience, but we're spiritual beings. Master this reality, endure, persevere, and overcome it. So I teach people,
Beautiful.
what are they and who are they? What's their mission and purpose in life? You had a near death experience yourself. So
Yeah.
you know your mission and purpose in life, part of which it deals with what you do with death doulas and your show.
Hmm.
You help other people realize that what we call death is not death. Returning
Right.
home, yes, but the angels call living here death. Other people don't know who they are and why they're here. They have no clue. It's not about ego or greed. It's not about how much money can I make, be the wealthiest person on the planet, or ego and greed. That's serving the evil. How can I help another soul grow and become closer to the creator, who and whatever you call the creator? Hence the name of my book, There Are No Lines in Heaven. Because two things. I had a client, God's patient, at the Gerson Institute who met me and said, I want you to work with me. And I said, Mr. Brown, you hire only Christian doctors. I'm not Christian, I'm Jewish. I may believe in Jesus, but I'm Jewish. He said, but you've met Jesus. I'm a devout Christian and I've never met Jesus. I said, well, number one, I'm related to him. Number two, I had a near death experience. And number three, there are no lines in heaven because there's no religion in heaven. He said, that's not what I was told. I was told that only Christians went to heaven, and my sect of Christianity was first in line to go to heaven. I said, that's funny. I've been up there twice. Nobody ever told me there. I said, everybody's up there, Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, and even beings who are not even living on our earth are up in heaven. Then he
Right.
had a near death experience. And he came back and said, you know what, Dr. Robinson? You're right. I met Jews and Christians and Buddhists and Hindus and Muslims. Well, eventually he would die, wouldn't come back. And the day of his death, an angel appeared in my room and said, there are no lines in heaven when you reach the pearly gates. No Christians in the center, Jews to the left, Muslims to the right, for you are all children of God and you are all welcome. And then the angel went on to laugh how silly human beings are because they don't know the divine truth. Plain and simple, religion
Mm.
is a man made construct.
It,
There is no religion. It's all about the spirituality of growth and becoming closer to the creator, who and what you call it. Every every faith has a purpose to teach you something, to something for you to learn. The faith you're in and the faith you choose. But Jesus didn't say, come make a religion after me. He said, follow me. Doesn't matter if you were Jewish, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, or Muslim. After his death, the Romans decided, hey, we got a lot of these pagans, and we're going to mix some of our religion with some of their religion, and we're going to mix the two together. And we thank Constantine, Emperor Constantine, first emperor of Rome and Christianity. He accepts
mhm.
Christianity because he claims he saw a cross in the sky on the day that he beat the other emperor, that they were vying for control of Rome. He accepts Christianity. They don't kill Christians anymore. And now Christianity becomes accepted faith. And he mixes in what is Roman with Christianity, and he gets a lot of converts. Rome's still in control for the next 1500 years. So all those things are broken down and they change what was the Roman Senate into different levels of the Catholic Church, universal Christianity. That's what Roman Catholic Church means.
Mm.
So they have their pros and their cons. Every religion does. There's good people and bad people in every religious faith. I'm not here to knock anybody. Doesn't matter. There's goods and bads within it. Everything's got something to teach us. We're never here to hate anybody. We're never here to judge anybody. And we're not really here to commit suicide when we think we're not worthy. Number one, every being who comes to this world is a worthy child of God. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. You can't come to this planet if you weren't already worthy to come to this experience because this is a tough place to exist. This is not
Yeah.
easy. Toughest place in the universe. It is a schooling planet, not a prison planet. It's not hell on earth unless you make it so. Only 2% of all human beings are supposed to have a contract to commit suicide to save another life or help someone else. The rest, they're going to have to recycle and do that life over again next time. Most of the time, it dealt with drugs, alcohol, sex, abuse of some kind that somebody couldn't handle it anymore. And so they commit suicide. But if you were destined to go home at age 58 and you killed yourself at age 30, you're going to have to hang around a while until your soul's ready to return to the other side of what we call heaven. Of course, you can pray that the person can leave earlier because they have a lesson to learn, but chances are they're going to have to recycle and do that lesson over again. I don't know about you, but I don't really want to do that. I
Mm.
always want to get better and better experiences. So now we know who and what we really are, at least from my perspective of what I was taught from the other side. I teach this technique called Einstellung every other week, twice a month, for free on Sunday afternoons at 1:15 Eastern Time. Now you're here with me in Florida, so
Yep.
that's not a big thing. You're in Tampa, just north of Orlando. And I teach that for people in person and online. But I have people from 25 different countries and 25 different states, and I never know who's going to show up on any given Sunday, anywhere between 30 and 40 people. I teach it for free from 1:15 to 2 p.m. every other Sunday. Next Sunday is March the 1st, and we'll teach it again. And at 2 o'clock, then people show up from all over the world, whoever I've worked with, and we will do Einstein together in a group session from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And I do that as I travel even. Now, I will also be working with clients one-on-one. They're God's patients, my clients. And I teach them alternative, complementary, integrative, and spiritual medicine. So it doesn't matter if they've been written off by the medical community or they have 12 weeks to live. If I hear the words, touch not my child, I know I can't do anything to stop them from crossing over and going home. I
Mm.
work with chronically and seriously ill folks who the doctors don't know what to do with, or how to handle. And then I work with people like yourself who've had a near death experience or have gifts but don't know how to put them into practice. Now, the other thing is I teach starting in April 18th and 19th. I will be teaching doctors and healing practitioners, both licensed and unlicensed, and giving out certifications if they follow what I do uh, on a weekend, one weekend a month for 12 months. They will follow my 12 modules. So each module is taught on a Saturday and a Sunday once a month throughout the year. If you go through all 12 of my modules, you will get a certification of alternative, complementary, integrative, and spiritual medicine. That's what you'll be doing as I introduce you to the Commission on Religious Counseling and Healing about spirituality versus religion. As a matter of fact, that's the first session in April. The difference between religion and spirituality. One's man made, one comes from the Creator itself. One has the understanding of teaching us something, the other one existed long before we created man made religions. Religion requires spirituality to exist, but spirituality does not require religion to exist.
Mm.
One actually has nothing to do with the other. So we're going to talk about those things and how can we bring God, the creator, the one, the all, the everything, the big guy, the big gal, it back in to medical practices so people can incorporate God in their healing process. Did you know that there's a 35% better chance, higher chance of survival if you include God in your healing practice than if you don't?
Yep.
I worked with the Gerson Institute, I worked with Hulda Clark, and these people, that's the one thing they did not include God in their healing practices. So
Really.
I teach alternatives, complementary, integrative, and spiritual medicine. It's still the number one most important thing that can help you heal. The Creator, because the Creator is the one by grace that can help us heal in this place. And most healing, 95% of it is spiritual and emotional. Only
Hmm.
5% of all healing is physical, which means you got to have some lessons to do and work to do while you're here. Remember, this is a schooling planet. You must learn why you're here and what to do with your mission and purpose in life. The objective, figure that out, and you'll live a much easier life. Now, we're not here to suffer. Everybody said, especially Hindus, you're here to suffer. No, you're not. You are here to
Right.
struggle like a butterfly in a cocoon. If you cut the cocoon to try to help the butterfly get out, the butterfly will die. The buffalo must struggle to push its way out to become a butterfly. It goes from, a little caterpillar in a cocoon and becomes its shining star butterfly. We too must do the same thing. We must figure out who and what we are. We must struggle, but we don't have to suffer. There's a difference between the two. If you're suffering in this life, you're feeling put upon, or you're being beat up, you have to change your reality. You have to change your escape mode. You have to get out of one. You're not suffering. You're not here to suffer. You are here to struggle, grow, and become closer to the Creator and master this reality. So there's a lot of things people don't know. They have forgotten. You
Hmm.
have angel wings behind you.
Yep.
Many of us are angels on this planet. Some are that they know of. Some are just human beings that are acting in that presence of bringing the divine light to others to help them, whether it's helping them cross over or come into this world. I have the gifts to be able to smell the angels. I can
Oh, wow.
smell every angel. I know every angel by their unique and distinct frequency, but fragrance. Each one has a different fragrance. Some smell more like dragon's blood, patchouli. Others smell like lemon blossoms and strawberries. Each one has its own frequency and fragrance. Good guys smell like heaven. Bad guys stink like ashtrays. Bad guys talk incessantly, 25 words or more, mixing good with bad. The good guys speak with five words, not letters. That would be impossible. 5 words or less, and they come with feelings and pictures that you have to interpret. Good guys come from the front of you, bad guys come from the back of you. You must learn to differentiate between good and evil on this planet. It's a training.
Yep.
Your body, a tool. Use to discern, learn to discern, or you will burn. And if you don't, you won't be able to connect to the source. You must use your pineal gland. My DMT levels were higher to connect to the source. Inside the pineal gland is melatonin and melanin. The more melanin you have, the less calcified your pineal gland is, the easier it is that you will be able to connect to the source. So I teach people how to reconnect to the source by using Hayataki herbs or tamarind or different versions of gold. But the biggest thing, Einstellung, to clear out the pineal gland, to get rid of the interference so you can reconnect to the source of all that is. And in doing so, figure out what your mission and purpose in this life is. Wouldn't you want to know what your mission and
Beautiful.
purpose in life? If you didn't have a near-death experience and already know what that is, you would
Hmm.
know. Don't you think most people would want to know?
Yeah.
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 To bring heaven to earth. That's my objective. So, like I said, I teach Einstein for free every other Sunday. I have one-on-one clients of which I ask for a donation. I also teach the doctors, and I'm there to help in any way, shape, and form I can to bring people closer to the creator of what and who we call God. Could be any number of things.
Beautiful.
My name in Hebrew means peaceful messenger, son of the sovereign. My job? To be that diplomat, to get people closer, to remember their objective in this reality, and that this is a really great illusion, but it is an illusion. So, you had your near death experience. It changed your life, put you on a different path. It even made you move from New Jersey and Pennsylvania, come to Florida. And
Yeah.
as a result, you're on a different mission. You work with death doulas, you work with people with near death experiences. There are shamans and different people who have different understandings of spirituality when it comes to enlightenment, awareness, or consciousness. My job is very specific, but God also gives it to me to figure out what I need to do to help another soul. You have your way of helping, I have my way of helping. So, any questions so I can go into greater depth and detail?
I do a couple before we move forward. So, and everything you said was like amazing, very spot on, perfect. Couldn't said it better. So thank you for sharing all that. And very amazing stories, with the near death experience. I'm kind of shocked when you said that they let you walk out of there after coming out of the morgue. Like they didn't
Nobody
have
was there
any.
to stop me. There was nobody there to stop me. So who was going to stop me and say no? Because 9 months later, I asked my mom and dad, did we ever get a bill from the hospital? And they said no. They put you in the
Oh,
morgue. As far as they were concerned, you weren't in the emergency room. So there was
yeah.
nobody at the front desk. Mom and dad just walked me out, put me in the
And
back of the car, and we drove away.
and the morgue didn't say, well, let's get us an ambulance or a wheelchair or anything like that.
There was nobody there.
Oh my gosh. That's unique. Definitely. Did you know, of course, like, did you have any inkling that these were going to happen at all? Like any
Didn't have a clue.
premonitions, something?
I was just shy, nerdy 17-year-old.
Mm,
I didn't know my rear end from my right hand. I didn't know nothing, except I was pretty smart. But
mm.
I wasn't smart enough to know anything about near-death experience. I'd never even heard of them. I had never studied them, learned of them, didn't know anything about Raymond Moody. And it wasn't until the next day when I went to Montefiore that they gave me the book. And his book had just come out.
Right.
Divine timing. Nothing happens by accident, in my way of understanding things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And everything you've talked about, like we don't die, there's no death. That there's no religion on the other side. So that all makes sense, from my own understanding and journey as well. Um, and I kind of want to, I had a couple experiences with angels and Jesus, and you know, I've never really seen an angel's face, but I know their presence. I do like patchouli. Who represents patchouli?
Um, Most of the time, these are the angels that assist us. Every human being has at least two guardian angels. They could have more, depending on the level of spirituality that they need to bring into this world. We're bringers of light. For people who work for good and God, there's two or more angels with us. They are the same angels that bring us to earth, are the same angels that take us home. In reality, there's no angel of death. It's the same angel.
Mhm.
The bad guys, the people that work directly for evil, of which 10% of this planet directly knows they're working for evil. They only get one half of an angel. And in other words, two bad guys would only get one angel working for evil. The good guys, if there was two people, you'd have at least four angels or more to keep us protected. So you begin to differentiate between the fragrances of each of these. And my favorite one is the one that smells like dragon's blood. If you've ever smelled dragon's blood, it's why
Mhm.
dragon's blood is such a beautiful fragrance and why the Catholic Church actually uses it to clean negative energy out of the church. You can clean your home with it too. And then I remember the first time I smelled my first angel, and he smelled like dragon's blood with lemon blossoms. And if you've ever smelled lemon blossoms in April when the buds start to come out, especially in California or back in New Jersey, when the winter is going away and the spring is coming, there's nothing more sweet smelling than a lemon blossom. You go, what? Yeah. Lemon blossoms smell so sweet. The more sour
Mhm.
the fruit, the sweeter the blossom. And it just waffles in the room. And each angel has its own distinct fragrance, which is
Wow.
amazing. And the
Mm.
more angels you get to play with, the more you'll identify their fragrances. There
Okay.
was a family member. Her name is Liliana. She lives in Chicago. When she was born, her family actually came up from Mexico, went through New Mexico, Arizona, and into California. And then they were part of what was called, oh shoot, these were people who were Jews who converted to Catholicism because in 1492 you had a choice: leave, die, or convert. Now, they were called conversos, and many Jews left and came to the New World through Mexico. So even though they were still Jewish, they had become conversos or Catholics. And over time, they would forget who they were. Liliana was a little girl. She was 8 years old and told her mom, I'm not Catholic. I'm Jewish. And the parents looked at her and laughed. Well, you can't become Jewish, little girl, not till you become older. So they forgot about it, sloughed it off. And at age 21, Liliana, who we adopted, came into our synagogue and said, I have known since age 8 that I am going to become Jewish because I've always been Jewish. I've been Jewish before. So she converted, became Orthodox Jewish. She moved back to Chicago, which her family nearly disowned her.
Mm.
And she had an aunt who was dying in Texas. And she called me and she knows that my prayers are strong and they take weight here on earth as it is in heaven, only because I believe. They've taught me how to believe. And we did prayers for her. And then she called me and she said, you don't have to pray for her anymore. She's passed away. She's out of pain. 3 days later, Liliana's aunt from Texas, along with a new angel, appeared in the room. And I told my mom, Mom, there's an angel in the room. I could smell him. And that year, this is right before my mom passed away, my mom could smell the angel too. As you get closer to God and time to go home, you'll begin to smell the fragrances of angels. In my
Mm.
case, since I crossed over, I smell them. All right, anyway, I said to the angel, I don't recognize your fragrance. I've never smelled your fragrance before. You must be new. And he said, I'm 2,000 of your earth years old. Well, in earth
Wow.
terms, that's a long time, but in angel terms, he's a rookie. And he said, this is not my normal task. The other angels, who are normally the beings that take this being home, are a little busy right now. And so I had to take him home. And this particular person asked that she leave a message for you before she goes home. And I said, are you Liliana's aunt? And she said, yes. And she said, I'm concerned about my husband. Please tell my children and my husband I'm out of pain and I'm feeling great. But because my husband was drinking so much, he was so worried about me, please do prayers for the next few weeks so that my husband will give up drinking. I said, okay. She bid me a fair adieu, and the angel disappeared, and so did the fragrance. Now, the older the angel, the longer the fragrance will linger in the room you're in. A
Mm.
new angel, like he was, a rookie, taking people back and forth, the fragrance vanished the moment he vanished with the person. So I knew he was a rookie anyway, because his
Right.
fragrance was so uniquely different. I called Liliana, who got me in contact with her cousin. The cousin asked me, how would I know this information? Only her mother would know that. I said, because your mother told me what to tell you about what was happening. And so this lady was kind of didn't believe me at all. So I told her some personal things that only her mother would know. And she said, only my mom would know that. Only we knew that. And if Liliana didn't tell you, you must have spoken to my mother. So she believed. She said also, you can stop praying for my father because he gave up drinking. My job, prayer, changes things. This
Mm.
Einstein changes things. So the prayer made a difference. Matter of fact, another angel appeared 3 weeks into it before the daughter told me, and said, you can stop praying for this man now. He's fine. he gave up alcohol. So angels will appear. I'll see auric fields around people. I'll be aware of certain things. There's colors. Most humans don't realize there's an auric field around them where I can see
Mhm.
different colors, at least three, and I can see their auric field. And this will shine the light about how well they are doing, how good they feel, and what's happening in their earthly body. These are things. This is some of the gifts that I have. I am so grateful for the little bitty gifts that I've got. I love to be able to tell people what I see. I'm not supposed to tell people when they're going to die. Some people
Mhm.
want to know that. And I very rarely ever get permission to tell somebody because it's some way far into the future.
Right.
But most people who I work with that have only got 12 weeks to live, they sort of know it. They know something's not right. Their body is no longer functioning properly and they're getting ready to leave. They're
Mhm.
seeing things that they couldn't see before because, like my mom smelled the angel, she was getting ready to go home too. It would be only a year later that she would go home. So
Yep.
you must learn to discern, I like to say, rather than burn. In other words, differentiate between good and evil in this world so that you can actually be of service to the Creator and help other people.
Mhm.
And learning what an angel smells like and knowing the truth and who's talking to you, either good in God or bad in evil, will help you understand who you are and why you're really here. And if people know that, they can stop fighting. Stop fighting and saying, I'm a Democrat, or I'm a Republican, or I'm an independent, or I'm an American, or I'm a Canadian. And just realize they're a child of God, having an experience of which they're an American or some other country, and that we're all children of God and we're all brothers and sisters, and
Mhm.
everybody's welcome in heaven. And there's no right or wrong, there's just better. Not better and worse, different levels of better.
Yep.
And with different levels of better, there's more joy. Joy is a divine feeling, an emotion, where good or happiness is something that comes and goes, it's transient. So it's always best to have joy in your life. And how you do that? Through Einstein, your divine connection. For instance, you have divine light behind you, and it looks like it's coming out of your crown chakra behind you, right?
Yep. Yep.
But when I see people who really have that, I know that person is divinely guided. And as a result, they're a brother and sister. I like to think of the term as you are now mishpacha, extended family from the heart, like an angel. You have a physical body and a spiritual aspect. That spiritual physical body combination, if you know who you are and why you're here and you've had a near death experience, then you're family from the heart because you do know why you're here. The game
Mhm.
of life may have to be played, but now it gets to be played differently. And so
Yep.
people are looking for answers because the current reality doesn't give that to them. This world is not about ego and greed. It is about helping one another, lifting our energy, consciousness, and awareness to the next level so that we can bring heaven to earth, not hell on earth. Do you want to see this planet nuked for the seventh time? Do you want to see us
No.
destroy the world with diseases and war or starvation? I don't think so. If
Mm-mm.
you're like me, you'd like to bring peace on earth, and that's to bring heaven on earth. And that's to remember who we really are. And the rulers of this planet are not the true rulers of this planet. They're operated and controlled by evil. The true rulers of this world are each of us, as we're individual beings who know exactly who and what we really are and why we're really here. And when you know that, you're autonomous because
Mhm.
you're being divinely guided by the source of all that is. He, she, it makes no difference what you call the creator, just the
Right.
universe itself. And when we do that and you realize you're playing a game of life, then you can enjoy it much more to the fullest. You can help one
Exactly.
another lift up and we can become stronger together. You can
Yep.
also realize I'm not going to listen to that guy. Like I said to the doctors, I'm not going to accept your diagnosis or your prognosis. Well, you can say to a politician, I'm not going to accept what you're doing. You're a greedy, egotistical bastard. And I don't care what you say, and I don't care what you do, but I sure as heck don't want to be like the Klaus Schwabs, the
Mm-hmm.
Bill Gates, or what's his name? George Soros's. George Soros calls himself the son of Satan, that he wants to destroy the world and remake it in his own image, whether he's a megalomaniac or something else. If he is the son of Satan, these three beings that I just mentioned, I don't like any of them. To me, they are the evil that represents the beings that are trying to hold on to power in this reality. I don't accept them. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care what they do. I don't want to have anything to do with them. These people, if that's the world they seek, then may they spin off into the old world in the third dimension, and may I be able to help as many people raise their consciousness and into the fifth dimension where heaven rules and not hell on earth, or it's heaven on earth. And that's my reality. That's become
Mm-hmm.
my reality to the nth degree. My job is still to help other people. Now, even though it became a church, Nova Terra et Nova Celestia means new earth, new heaven. I became a divine trust. I'm saying it wrong. It's basically theocentric eleemosynary. I'm sorry, it's
Mm-hmm.
one of those 50-cent words. And I also opened up a private membership association. It's called Center for Spirituality and Healing, where spirituality is what will bring us closer to God and our
Mm-hmm.
own healing as we recognize who and what we really are. And when you know that, then you know how to play the game of life better. So
Yeah.
hopefully those answers more questions rather than give you more. But do you have anything else you want to ask?
Um, yeah, so yeah, that pretty much answered some of the questions I was going to bring up. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, and like the medical field, I also go alternative. So once I had the near-death experience, I was on like a 10-year um span, I'll say, hiatus, going into different healing modalities. Now, I only went and did like 20. I think you did 425, which is amazing. How did you get to understand Helstein? Did I say that right? I'm sorry.
Einstein?
Einstein?
Einstein,
Ein- Yeah.
Einsteellen. Number
Oh.
one, that third being in the room said I would learn it.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, when Mr. Brown died, the angels came in the room and said, "Now's that time. You got to learn it." So somebody would appear and said, "How would you like to learn this technique?" And I said, "I've been waiting for you. The angel told me 30 days ago. What took you so long to get here?" And she taught me how to do Einstein. And from there on, I didn't look back. In 3 years, I had an amazing thing that happened where I was in the middle of an MRI because I had been beat up really bad. My body had been injured severely. I could barely walk. And I was in my fifth MRI in 10 years. And, and I was having a really bad backache, worse than I'd ever had before. I go, what the heck happened? It's near my birthday and I'm having the worst backache. And I go in there, and the doctor says to me, I don't know what you're complaining about. You're 80% improved from your last MRI. We've never seen anything like this. What are you doing? And the doctor went on to explain to me what was happening on my results. And I said, I'm working with God and doing this Einstein and this alternative complementary integrative medicine. She said, I can't talk to you about God. She said, it's forbidden in California, and this is 2009, to talk about God with my patients. She said, if I talk to you about God and healing, I will lose my license. So
Yeah.
she was threatened. At that moment, I recognized I couldn't stay in California much longer. If I was going to help other people, I would have to work with a state that's friendlier towards doctors. See, now California, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan, Massachusetts, and New York have made it illegal to talk about God with your patients, whether you're an MD, DC, DO, DMV, DDS, psychologist. Those
Crazy.
states have made it illegal to bring up God in the conversation with your patient unless the patient brings up the conversation first. Well, hey, since my first thing is God, I'm always going to bring up God. So when God told me shortly after my mom's death that I would be leaving California and I would know where I'm going and what I'm doing the year afterwards, I got invited to come talk about my book, There Are No Lines in Heaven, which is the name of my website as well, therearenolinsinheaven.com, to come do a lecture here in Florida 3 years ago because my editor was here and she had 30 clients for me to meet. Did work with the 30 clients, went back home, and I said, Father God, if this is where I'm supposed to move, please give me a sign. I arrived back in California. I just sold my mom's house and I was living with some roommates. And the sign was 5 minutes after entering that house there in Encinitas, California, my roommates asked me to move. I said, I won't move. I've been paid up till the end of January and I'm not moving until January. On January 30th, I was told by the angels, get out of California now, and you must be in Florida by the 15th of February. So I drove as fast and as far as I could, other than stopping for a couple days to see my brother in Arizona. I made it on the 8th of February. I was in Tallahassee. I said, where to now? And I made arrangements with one of my clients who had met before, a couple months before when I came to do a talk here in August in 2023. And she said, you could stay with us for 3 weeks, but then we have family coming in from Brazil, so you have to find somewhere else to live. I said, at least it gives me some time where I
Mm.
can make phone calls. And the angels told me to put an ad out in Furnished Finders. That's where doctors find a temporary place to live, anywhere from 13 to 26 weeks, which is anywhere from a quarter of a year to a half a year. And the first person to contact me was Dr. Victoria Miller in Apopka within 2 hours. When I met Victoria, she had an office that she was looking for me to move into, a house for me to move into, and I realized she was a spiritual sister that I had been missing. They told me I had 42 spiritual sisters. She was the last of the spiritual sisters I was looking for. When I
Wow,
told her who she was and who I was to her, we realized we were best of friends. And I've lived here for the last couple of years. I've worked in
beautiful.
her office and we'll be moving into a new location soon. But it's been a wonderful place to be and feeling like I have family. Since some of my family's across on the other side, mom and dad, my brothers and sisters are still in California and Arizona, and I'll go back and visit them for Easter and Passover. But the biggest thing is I feel at home here in Florida.
Hmm.
Then the angels
Me
went on to
too.
tell me that I had close to 3,000 clients here that I had to help in Florida before I could move on somewhere else. I don't know where, I don't know when, but when the time's right, they'll tell me where I need to go. And as a result, I've been enjoying it here in Florida. I'm really surprised. Never been to Florida before. Never thought I would ever come here. But I like Florida. I like the
Yeah.
South. And where I
I never
live in
thought I would live
Apopka,
here, but here I am.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I came down New Jersey to California to Florida, and other than humidity, I like it here in Florida.
Hmm.
The South is right. I'm in the border between the North and the South. I have some Southern ways of doing things here and some Northern ways because a lot of Northerners moved to Florida. But it's a different lifestyle. You can talk about God, and that's the most important thing. And the second most important thing, because God says I have a lot of people to work on here in Florida. So
Hmm.
I need to be here. In the
Yeah.
meantime, I travel. I have clients up in Friday Harbor, Washington, Seattle, Kirkland, Bellevue, Seattle itself, Auburn. I have clients down in Oregon, and I have clients down in San Francisco, Mount Redding, Mount Shasta. I have people down in LA, Orange County, Ventura County, San Bernardino. Um, San Diego, of course, Riverside. Got a lot of folks in Arizona now, Texas. So I do a lot of traveling. As a matter of fact, my first TV show was done in Dallas, Good Morning Dallas, and I didn't look back. I have a lot to share with other people and to teach. That's why I'm now teaching doctors and healing practitioners, people who've
We
had
need that.
near-death experiences, and how to turn on their gifts and healing abilities to help other people. and to bring the fifth dimension in heaven to earth. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll begin that in April 18th and 19th. If people want to get a hold of me for either a session or learn to do the free Einstellen, March the 1st, or any other Sunday that we do it, contact me at area code 760-917-2625. That's 760-917-2625. Or email me through my website or at healer to be sure at gmail.com. That's HEALER, the number two, the letter B as in boy, the word sure, SURE, at gmail.com. It's healer to be sure at gmail.com. Or just go to my website, there are no lines in heaven.com, and put a comment in or ask for a session, whether it's one on one, learning Einstein, or taking my classes once a month on the weekends. And I
Beautiful.
will help you any way I can. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing my story with you and helping other people. You have anything else you want to ask? Anything else you want me to share?
I did actually, because you did a lot of healing modalities. You said there was 10 that you really
Yeah.
see an effectiveness with.
Number one is the power of prayer. Number two is the biology of belief. If you believe you're going to heal, you will. That's the most important thing. Prayers, I've got lots of them. You want to hear some healing prayers? They take about 11 or 12 minutes to repeat all of the ones I say before I begin working with a client so they can push out the negative energy and I can see what I see in the auric field around the person or feel it because I'm empathic. And then, of course, I do my Einstein. And then I do something called pushing faint matter or negative energy. The Monroe Institute, Bob Monroe was a man that had an out of body experience, transformative experience in 1959. He experienced at least 100 different dimensions in our reality. He figured out that we're not our bodies and we're not even this physical matter. We're much more than this.
Mhm.
He went on to open the Monroe Institute. In 1972, it was right down the block from his first clients, the Central Intelligence Agency. Today, I don't know if Bob Monroe's alive, and I don't even know if they work with the Central Intelligence Agency anymore. Probably not. But they teach other people how to push out negative dark energy from your body, and that's very similar to the technique called pushing faint matter. So I teach people how, if you push out pain from your body, you stop being afraid of pain. Because now you know I can go in and push that pain out, and then I heal, and your body will heal much faster. So it's called pushing faint matter. Of course, I do the dietary things because I worked with the Gerson Institute and Hulda Clark. I mean, I was trained in juicing diets and raw food diets. And I even worked with Agenus Vonderplant's raw food, raw meat diet. I ate raw meat for helping in healing, restoring bone and damaged tissues. It was also very good for helping get rid of chemotherapy and the side effects of those things. So we'll go on to getting rid of emotions that don't serve you, which is a major thing, like I said, the angels have taught me, and using verbal frequencies for healing. I actually have verbal frequencies, so you don't actually have to take the medicine. Most people don't. Some people do. But you can actually use verbal frequencies to eliminate emotions. You can also use verbal frequencies to help yourself heal. We have verbal frequencies for 15,000 different items that exist. And these came from all of my teachers. 37 of the 57 people that I talk about in my book, There Are No Lines in Heaven, have had near death experiences. Of the 37 people with the near death experience, many of them had wonderful gifts, but they're not on the planet. And I wanted to make sure that people knew all these wonderful gifts so they could continue and not get lost.
Mm.
And so, if you read my book, chapter 5, module 5, there's 12 modules. Module 5 within chapter 5 talks about the major things that I teach. And then all the other modules talk about all sorts of other stuff, including dentistry and healing, the importance to having your jaw aligned, and the ability to remove the toxic chemicals from your brain because there's no lymph nodes in your brain. And how do you get the toxins out? All sorts of things. You name it, we talk
Beautiful.
about it. It's in the
Beautiful.
third edition. I'm preparing the fourth edition for publication this year in 2026. And so this book will continue to grow. Right now it's 411 pages long, weighs 3 pounds. It's 11 and a half by 8.5 in size, and it's size 18 font, so you can read the book without the glasses. Now, the normal ebook, it's a little different. It's an ebook. It's an instant download, a lot less expensive, and you can download it to your computer on a Kindle, free Kindle from Amazon. You can read the book whatever time it takes to you, but still read chapter 5, but specifically module 5 to be prepared if you want a one-on-one session with me. To do Einstein, you don't need to do anything but show up on any given Sunday at 1:15 Eastern Time. We'll teach
Beautiful.
that technique. But let me know you're coming so I can send you a Zoom link and you can come and join us. So,
Beautiful.
what's the next question?
Just kind of wanted to see what different healing modalities you did, because I know I do like medical intuitive energy healing, Reiki, things like that. And that's kind of been my journey, Akashic Records, different things where I help people, life review. So I haven't really dove into as much as you have. So I'm just was curious about, like what you felt was
Oh,
uh,
important. Well, of the 425 that I investigated, I'm actually keep going. I've continually investigated this system or that system. For instance, EE system. I haven't had success with it. As a matter
yeah.
of fact, a lot of my patients who were diagnosed with cancer never survived it. EE systems didn't work with them. I felt like I was burning up inside. So I don't recommend anything that doesn't work for me because I'm
Mm-hmm.
really sensitive. I'm intuitive. I'm an empath. If it doesn't help me, I'm not going to work with it. And I was told
Okay.
by the angels, this EE systems can and will be manipulated by evil, in which case I'm not going to deal with it. I've worked with a lot of things, multi-level things, didn't work. Some things, vitamin and nutrition, some help. So I talk about those specific things that helped. Now, if it didn't help me, unless I'm prohibited in saying or working with it because they say this is about ego or greed or this isn't going to help anybody, that's up to you and your body to test and experiment with it. And that's how I learn about some of these other things. People will come to me, did you ever hear about this? Did you ever work about this? Have you ever learned that? So I will use it. I'm my best guinea pig. So I'll test it on me before I recommend it to you. If it doesn't work for me, I'm not going to recommend it. And I'm not doing it out of ego or greed because somebody's paying me for it to talk about their product, good or service.
Mm,
No, if it doesn't work for me, I won't even bring it up. I only discuss the things that helped me because if they helped me for someone who's been written off 3 times, then it might help you too. And they're simple, they're less expensive, and they're easy to do. You just have to believe that they will help you too.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything you do and everything that you shared and for joining us today.
And thank you for inviting me, and may your audience see this and utilize it to the best of their abilities. And maybe you'll come and join us one of these Sundays and learn how to do Einstein too.
I just might. Yeah, it sounds very interesting and I would like to check it out.
By all means. Love to everybody out there. And you can always contact me directly through my website, therearenolinesineheaven.com. My phone number is 760-917-2625, or just email me at healer2besure@gmail.com. Thank you to everybody and everyone. And of course, thank you to you, Laura. God bless, be
You're
well,
welcome.
and keep doing your mission and purpose in life until God says it's time to come home.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you as well. Same for you.
Namaste.
All right. Same.
Let's talk about death, baby. Let's talk about you and me. We're not the one and only. It's going to happen to everybody. Yeah, baby. Say it isn't so, baby. It's the truth, don't you know, baby? We're all consciousness, living out our reason in a world of endless stories. Said from the beginning, we race to the finish as we face